You think co-parenting with your ex is tough? Imagine doing it while cameras are flashing, tabloids are digging into your every move, and millions of people are watching, ready to judge every little thing you do. That's the kind of pressure Johnny Depp had to deal with while raising his kids after separating from his longtime partner, Vanessa Paradis. And the way he handled it? Honestly, it might surprise you. We often look at celebrities and assume their lives are all glitz and glam, big houses, red carpets, expensive clothes, private jets. But underneath all that, they're people. Real people, with emotions, relationships, and responsibilities just like the rest of us. And when it comes to being a parent, none of those fancy things matter nearly as much as being there, showing up, and loving your kids. Johnny Depp and Vanessa Paradis were together for 14 years. That's longer than a lot of marriages last. They were never married, but they built a life together. They had 2 beautiful children, Lily Rose and Jack. And for a long time, they kept things low-key. Not a lot of drama, not much media frenzy around their private life. Just 2 artists living quietly and raising a family. But in 2012, they announced their split. And let's be real, Hollywood breakups usually come with a ton of mess. Headlines, rumors, interviews where one person blames the other. But this one was different. Johnny and Vanessa didn't fight in public. They didn't turn their breakup into entertainment. Instead, they focused on something way more important, their kids. Johnny said something really simple, but incredibly powerful: the children come first. Period. Not the career, not the public image, not my feelings. Just, the kids. That became the foundation of everything they did from that point forward. And that attitude changed everything. They weren't just exes trying to get along. They became co-parents with a shared mission. To raise kind, well-adjusted kids who felt safe, loved, and supported. And even when things got tough, because let's face it, all relationships have hard moments, they never lost sight of that goal. They kept things civil. Always respectful. No bad-mouthing each other in interviews, no dragging each other through the press. They communicated, they coordinated, and they worked together as a team, even though they weren't romantically involved anymore. And you know what? That's not easy. It takes maturity, patience, and a lot of self-awareness. Because let's be honest, when a relationship ends, especially one that lasted for over a decade, there are usually hurt feelings. There might be resentment, sadness, or even anger. But Johnny and Vanessa chose to rise above that. Not for themselves, but for their children. Imagine trying to make parenting decisions with someone you're no longer with, while every move is being scrutinized by fans and media. Imagine having to plan holidays, birthdays, and school schedules, not just around your own life, but around someone else's too. And then throw in acting gigs, travel, and public appearances on top of that. It's a lot. But they managed. And not only did they manage, they did it with grace. Johnny often talks about how much he valued the everyday moments with his kids. He didn't just want to be a father in title, he wanted to be a dad in practice. That meant waking up early to make breakfast. Walking them to school. Watching movies together. Tucking them into bed at night. Reading bedtime stories. The kind of stuff that might seem small, but actually means everything to a child. He said those moments grounded him. In a world that was always chaotic, always spinning, being a dad was something real. Something that mattered more than fame or money. And that connection didn't just benefit him, it deeply impacted his children too. Even though they were born into the spotlight, Johnny and Vanessa made it a point to keep their kids' lives as private and normal as possible. They didn't parade them around for publicity. They didn't use their children as props. Instead, they created a world where their kids could just be kids. Lily Rose and Jack had boundaries. They had rules. They had routines. And most importantly, they had parents who made them feel loved, not just when things were easy, but also when life got messy. And when you think about it, that's what all kids need. Stability. Love. A sense of security. It would have been easy for Johnny to just throw himself into work after the breakup, to distract himself with movie sets and global press tours. But he didn't. He showed up. Even with a demanding schedule, he made time for school drop-offs, for birthday parties, for dinner at home. Because he understood something a lot of people miss: it's not about how much money you spend on your kids. It's about how much time you spend with them. And let's not forget, this wasn't happening in a vacuum. Johnny was going through his own personal challenges. There were moments of public criticism, media controversy, and intense legal battles in the years that followed. But through all of it, he continued to prioritize his children. He tried to shield them from the noise. To protect their peace. That's not to say everything was perfect. Life rarely is. But the effort? It was there. And that counts for so much. What's even more impressive is how Johnny and Vanessa handled the transition from partners to co-parents. That's a tricky shift. You go from being a couple, sharing everything, to navigating boundaries, separate households, and new routines. It can be awkward. It can be emotional. But it can also work, when both people are committed to the same goal. They maintained open communication. They stayed involved in each other's lives, not as a couple, but as a parenting unit. That meant discussing school plans, health decisions, and career choices for their kids, always together. No one was left out of the loop. Johnny has talked about how they never forced their kids to pick sides or feel torn between them. There was no competition for affection. No guilt-tripping. Just two parents doing their best. And you can see the results in the way their children have grown up. Lily Rose, now a successful model and actress in her own right, speaks highly of both her parents. She's poised, confident, and grounded, which is honestly refreshing to see in someone raised in the spotlight. She's built her career with intention, taking roles she believes in, and maintaining a quiet dignity, much like her parents did. Jack, who prefers a more private life, seems to have inherited his dad's artistic spirit but chooses to keep things low-key. And that's the beauty of how Johnny and Vanessa raised them. They gave their kids space. Space to become their own people. To follow their interests, discover their values, and build their lives on their own terms. There was no pressure to live up to their parents' fame. No, you have to be this, or you need to do that. Just love, guidance, and room to grow. And that brings us to something parenting experts often talk about: autonomy. Giving children a sense of independence, while still being there as a guide, is one of the best things a parent can do. It builds confidence. It helps kids develop decision-making skills. And it creates a stronger parent-child bond built on trust, not fear. Johnny and Vanessa clearly understood this. They didn't try to control every move their kids made. They set boundaries, yes. But within those boundaries, they allowed freedom. That's powerful. Another thing experts emphasize is consistency. Kids thrive on predictability. Routines give them a sense of control. When they know what to expect, when bedtime is, who's picking them up, what the weekend plans are. It makes them feel safe. Even with their unpredictable careers, Johnny and Vanessa made sure to maintain routines. They didn't let fame or travel get in the way of bedtime stories or family dinners. And when one parent had to travel, they coordinated. They didn't just drop the responsibility on the other. They planned ahead. They respected each other's time and involvement. That kind of balance takes effort. It requires empathy. And a lot of humility. Because at the end of the day, being a good co-parent isn't about winning. It's not about being the favorite parent or having the most say. It's about teamwork. Collaboration. Shared love for the child. And Johnny and Vanessa showed that even after a romantic relationship ends, the parenting relationship doesn't have to suffer. In fact, it can grow stronger when there's mutual respect. It's inspiring, really. Because so many people struggle with co-parenting. There's tension. There's baggage. There's often miscommunication, misunderstanding, and sometimes, unresolved hurt that spills into the way people try to raise their kids after a separation. It's a situation that so many people face, and it's rarely easy. When a romantic relationship ends, emotions are still raw. There can be resentment, disappointment, or just the sheer pain of letting go of a life you once imagined would last forever. Add kids to the mix, and suddenly, you're not just dealing with your own feelings, you're trying to be strong, steady, and supportive for your children too. What Johnny Depp and Vanessa Paradis showed the world is that co-parenting doesn't have to be a battlefield. It doesn't have to be about winning arguments or proving who's the better parent. It can be about cooperation. About compassion. About remembering that the relationship may have ended, but the responsibility and the love for your children hasn't. That part doesn't go away. If anything, it becomes more important. And Johnny and Vanessa embraced that truth. They made a conscious choice to co-parent with kindness. That's not a word you hear often when people talk about breakups, kindness. But it makes all the difference. Kindness in how you speak about the other parent in front of your kids. Kindness in how you handle disagreements. Kindness in the way you give space, offer help, or just listen. It's not always easy. In fact, it might be one of the hardest things a person has to do, to stay kind when you're hurting. To set aside ego. To put someone else's needs before your own. But that's what being a parent is all about. It's what Johnny and Vanessa did, again and again, and their children are a reflection of that choice. You can see it in the way Lily Rose speaks with calm confidence in interviews. In how grounded and private Jack has remained, even with his famous last name. These are kids who grew up surrounded by love, not conflict. Who saw their parents treat each other with dignity, even when they weren't together anymore. That kind of environment gives children something incredibly powerful, emotional safety. It lets them grow up without feeling like they have to choose sides. Without carrying the emotional weight of their parents' past. It lets them feel whole, even when their family structure has changed. That's what co-parenting with kindness can do. And the thing is, the family didn't fall apart. It just changed shape. It evolved. Instead of being one household, it became two. But the love didn't go away. The support didn't go away. The teamwork, the shared mission of raising their children, that stayed. That continued. So many people believe that once a relationship ends, the family is broken. But that's not always true. Families don't have to be defined by traditional roles. They don't have to look a certain way. What really matters is the connection, the care, and the consistency. That's what kids remember. Not how many parents live under one roof, but how loved they felt. How safe they were. How much effort was made to keep them happy and secure. Johnny and Vanessa redefined what it means to be a family after separation. They showed that love and respect can still live in the space where romance used to be. That you can still laugh together at your child's jokes, attend school events side by side, or share stories about how your kid used to mispronounce words in the cutest way. Those shared memories don't disappear. They just take on new meaning. And the beauty is, when kids see that, when they witness kindness between their parents, it gives them a deeper sense of stability. It tells them, we may not be together anymore, but we will always be here for you. Together. That message, delivered through actions, not just words, can shape a child's entire sense of self-worth and emotional security. So yes, it's inspiring. Not because Johnny and Vanessa are celebrities. But because they're a reminder that peaceful, loving co-parenting is possible. Even in the hardest moments. Even when things don't go the way you planned. You can still have a family, a beautiful, supportive, evolving family, even if it looks different than before. Their story reminds us that love takes many forms. Romantic love may end, but parental love? That never goes away. And now, let's turn the question over to you. Have you ever had to co-parent? Or maybe watched someone close to you go through it? What helped? What made it hard? What lessons did you learn? We'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment and share your experience. You never know who you might help by being open. And if you found this story touching, inspiring, or even just interesting, there's more where that came from. Go check out our next video on Keanu Reeves. Trust me, it's one of those rare stories that will warm your heart and restore your faith in humanity. And hey, if you enjoyed hanging out with me today, give this video a like. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you tap the little bell, you'll always be the first to know when a new video drops. Thanks for spending some time with me. Remember, even the biggest stars deal with the same challenges we do. They just happen to do it under a spotlight. But at the end of the day, it's all about love, effort, and showing up. That's what really makes a difference. See you next time.